Last time on local news, white parents sued the school board to end a 1971 Supreme Court ruling that ordered busing as a means of desegregating schools.
Desegregation, the choice for children, a 6 News special.
Ratings on WCNC's special were low.
We did a 1 share yesterday. That's just brutal.
We have got to connect with that audience.
And coming up,
he's hiring young. Most of his hires have been under 30. Most of them have less than 5 years experience. A number of them just getting out of school.
You've been in this business for 22 years. You are what Charlotte is all about.
But we're looking at formats and we're looking at people that might fit there.
Advertisers want us to watch your station, and we want someone there that we know, someone that care about us.
In blunt, ebonics terms, don't mess with her.
I know who I am. I know who this company is. I know that what they're saying is not true.
this program was made possible by support from the Ford Foundation, a resource for innovative people and institutions worldwide, the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the Jacob Burns Foundation, and the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Yeah, this is the road that been. What? 30, Victor Air Wash, 6 News. Stand for, he's calling. Dave Feaser, please call the newsroom. Dave Feaser.
Can you squeeze the Mustang thing in there somewhere?
I don't know where I'm going to get the time from. 1:15 is a conservative estimate for that. I don't know what I'm going to do if it goes longer.
Why don't you see if Brokaw will wait about 40 seconds for you?
Okay. I'm sure Tom would do that.
Yeah, and everybody else in the country will see Tom Brokaw sitting there for 40 seconds.
Because there's...
Waiting on Charlotte.
I know.
Walking any television newsroom in the country, it's really a very, very hard and demanding job.
So you first pack, white chum, 3 chum?
Youth and enthusiasm fuel a newsroom, and ideally you want to create a newsroom where you've got a mix of both experience and knowledge and youth and enthusiasm. You know, we certainly aren't making anybody rich, but if you enjoy the rush of breaking news, us adrenaline junkies think this is fun.
6 News. Anything going on? Okay, I hope it doesn't. You want me to take out here in Charlotte since I see it in the lead?
Yeah, I was just thinking, get a little work done.
How about if I say spend it liberally?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Well, we're looking at formats and we're looking at people that might fit there, both male and female. And the one thing that I need right now is I need a real strong consumer reporter.
Charlotte, North Carolina. It's really the centerpiece of the South.
We've got a terrific anchor that we kind of build a lot around, and Sonia Gant, who came to us from Chicago.
It's the #2 growth market in the country.
Lovely to see some stuff and talk with her.
900 businesses each year.
We're real impressed. I don't know what her situation is there.
30,000 adults, 18 plus, move into the market.
One of the fastest growing cities in the country, and we've got a lot going on here. There's no question about that.
6 new skyscrapers downtown. Bank of America relocating here.
US Air has got about 7,000 people. Microsoft's got over 1,000.
First Union, Bank of America.
Bank of America, First Union, Charlotte, is a banking center.
I'm not a banker. They just drive up the housing rates for us normal people. But it is, it's a terrific place.
Thanks to Bank of America and Hugh McCall's vision, coming alive as a huge redeveloped area.
It's very hip.
2 interstates, a splendid airport.
It's 4-season climate.
An abundance of water.
You're not too far from the beach and the
Great
mountains.
urban university.
The quality of life is good.
Income that has grown the most in this market, 50 plus.
How could you not like Charlotte?
Great medical center.
It's the best location in the nation.
Tremendous disposable income. Tremendously viable market. Glad to be here.
So it's got a great economic future. It has got this workforce that has got to get better educated. We've got 25% fail to finish high school, and we've got a very, very tight labor market. So we need people who can perform these skills, and we have got to somehow get them back into school and teaching them the things that they need to know.
The other big story of the day is taking place at the federal courthouse right here in Charlotte. That's where the desegregation trial is going on. People following this case understand the outcome is crucial to the future of education in Charlotte.
We're one of the few companies left that really gives a shit about doing news and doing it right. And
airs the district's dirty laundry concerning the mistreatment of black students.
yeah, I mean, there's no, as you know, there's no television nirvana.
East Mecklenburg High Principal Ron Thompson testified about how black students were treated badly by some teachers at 3 different schools where he worked. Thompson says he encountered one teacher who accused a black student of stealing his assignment simply because it was typed. The teacher said black students don't have typewriters. He must have stolen it. Another teacher told Thompson, "I refuse to teach black students. It's a waste of my time." And Thompson told the court another teacher demeaned a black girl in front of the entire class, telling her, "All you'll ever be is a maid." This 28-year veteran of the school district says he refused to tolerate those attitudes from teachers. Now the attorneys for the white
if that's something that interests you, I want you to call another fella and tell him you spoke with me. And his name is Richard Eller. And Richard
Keefe is hiring young. Most of his hires have less than 5 years experience, some just getting out of school.
Richard's number is 828.
Who's going to tell them this is some of the background of what you need and bring to the table?
Where are you from, Abigail? Why do you want to be a reporter?
I am concerned that news managers and directors who are of the Generation X, who are not of the boomer generation, who did not live through racism, who did not live through civil rights fights, cannot identify with those issues, and therefore it means nothing to them. If it means nothing to them, if your news director is the final word on what you're going to cover, then you're not going to get covered. And if we as messengers do not get the message of it out there, then we're doomed to repeat things that we thought we wouldn't have to do again. Does that not sound like the description of this desegregation issue that we're going through right now? I've worked in newsrooms with people in this market who were like, "Well, I don't see what all the problem is. My God, why do children have to ride on buses so long?" And I'm going, "You can't identify, can you, baby? You can't identify."
Hi. How are you? Was that or something else? You don't talk?
Rainbow wants your money, Hank. Right, Rainbow?
It's in that box over there.
One of our biggest problems in a growing city like Charlotte is how do you reach the newcomer and then tell them you've got responsibility.
Linda Reynolds came over and she talked with us, talked with the group about the United Way and the impact on the community. So.
That's great. That's great. Y'all do anything for the Week of Caring?
Tell me about that. I'm not sure which.
Basically, you go out into the community at different projects. Me being with United Parcel Service, we did a renovation.
We work at trying to sort of initiate the newcomer and say that in addition to their profit responsibilities, they have a civic responsibility.
Welcome to the kickoff of this year's NBC6 United Way campaign. This really begins 2 weeks of fun and festivities, but not to be lost in any of that is certainly the importance of what it is about, and that is the contribution to the community and all the great work that the United Way does. Giving back to the community is really what it's all about. It's the measure of a company and certainly the measure of a community. And certainly we as a company and as a television station get an awful lot of benefit from the community with regard to our work. So keep in mind, and I would think of this as really of an extension of what we really do each day, and that is provide a service to the community. With that, I'd like to introduce the campaign chairman, Megan Drew-Law.
Sounds all impressive.
That's what has made Charlotte what it is. People who looked at it as a place to build community.
Has been helping me diligently with our campaign.
Having said that, I would say that no television station has been a major player in the civic life of Charlotte. They tend to get in for glitzy, self-promotional things. They are now, some of their executives do work on a number of different community organizations and give leadership there. But in terms of money and the leadership of what you can do with the front page or an editorial page to get people moving in a direction, no, they don't, I regret to say.
If industry can come in and add to a city, then television should be able to do the same thing if we're supposed to be covering what a community is about. Not tell the community this is what you should be about, but listen to what the community is saying. And when you say to people who have done it, well, yeah, you were good in your day, but we're moving in this direction, are you taking into account what the community said it wanted and what it likes? And I think the community has not said to stations, this is what we want.
You are what Charlotte is all about. I mean, you've been in this business for 22 years right here at home, and we love you and the things that you have covered. And your mannerism and your relationship with the community is so fantastic. You know, everybody turns to 6, so we can see B. And I really want to know, if you've been there that long, what's your retirement? What's your benefits?
Were you ever given an evaluation as to you need to improve in this area?
They can't give an exact perfect review, because all of us were getting to the top of, after 10 years, you get 4 weeks of vacation, you get so many days of this, and there's no more benefits. So if you're at the, you max out. And that's exactly what's happened with a lot of our folks. We have maxed out. So if you get a good review or a perfect review, then what reward do you get? Because they're not going to give you any more money. There are no more benefits to give you. No promotions. I mean, as a reporter, what else are you going to do?
Is this happening more with black, all colors?
I think it becomes a double whammy for us because we are minorities, as a woman and as a black person and as an older person. But I think more than anything else, this is a changing of the guard. And it's how do you get rid of the folk who were there to bring in your own team? And how can you do it in such a manner that you don't upset the community? And I think more than anything, Mary, I'm in the way. They're not sure what to do with me.
You basically have been in limbo in a way, and finally they're making some moves, some strategies to actually point you the way out. You are a pillar in this community that age and industry standards should not apply in your case because you are us, and we need to send your station a message that if they want us to watch your station, if advertisers want us to watch your station, then we want someone that's there that we know, someone that care about us. So I understand that the industry have to have cosmetic changes and all that, but you're a representative of our community. You've been an advocate for the people, and you're more than just a reporter. And they need to understand that, and that's the message we want to send, that I want to send.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, we want to thank you for coming out. We are here to lend support, strong support, to Beatrice Thompson. Number 2, we are here to focus on the media and its inadequate or lack of coverage of positive activities and events in the black community. B. Thompson, an outstanding journalist, 20 years of service in this community. She has visibility, she has credibility. Her credentials cannot be questioned by anyone from an objective point of view. We also know that a number of very positive things occurred in our community, things where we needed media attention, and the media did not show up. We want Beatrice Thompson to continue to work in this community. She reflects our community, she knows our values, and therefore we want her, in blunt, Ebonics terms, don't mess with her. Don't mess with her. Let her alone, leave her be. That's Ebonics, if you would.
And B's status right now, she was fired?
She has not been fired to date, but she has been offered what we call a parachute, a severance package. which from our perspective is very inadequate, and not only that, we don't even want a severance package. We don't want her severed.
Is she currently working?
From the agency. Yes, she is currently working.
With the $80 to $100 million that they are hoping the public's going to put up to build this.
The entire time I've been in television news, I wanted to make sure that I told people stories right.
The committee says they're good for no more than $135 million.
The stories of the corporations will get told, but will the story of the group that's trying to get people from living on the streets get told? Or will it get told when one of the people who lives on the streets has killed somebody else or has died of exposure? Then you tell us about it. That's part of what we're supposed to do. Make sure those stories don't get lost.
Investors that they're talking to. B?
Usually, Fayette, North Carolina has its big small town parade, and it's gotten to the point where I guess you can't legitimately say it's small town anymore. It's a little town, but a whole bunch of people show up for it. But I was curious as to whether or not we can't do a roundup of how many little towns do still try to do parade for the 4th of July. Hickory Grove used to have its own parade, but you look at Hickory Grove now, and you wouldn't let your child cross in that area without being in the car to cross the street because it got so big it lost having its little small town parade kind of thing. Faith has held on to its. There's a little town in Cleveland County that does one. But I was wondering if we do still have any of the smaller towns that are still doing these kind of things, kind of hold it on, decorate your own car, get at the end of the line. And that's part of our parade kind of thing. Two other things I was looking at. If Mecklenburg did a straw vote of their tax increase, what do we actually get for our dollars? And tagging on to that is helping Brother Shin get a new Coliseum. It touches your pocketbook, particularly if you're scraping to pay your taxes each year, and there's no guarantee they ever get a chance to afford tickets to get in there to see the team that they've helped to support with more tax dollars. That just sort of bothers me that they ask for public money for that, because we're not going to get any of Georgia's private profits.
David? We are in a weather situation again today. So, you said pitch when we have a severe weather are changes in the way we react to severe weather story, and maybe that's what we do today. In tornadoes, you no longer go under bridges.
Consultants are telling local television, you got to keep it fast-paced, you got to keep it topical, you got to keep it of the moment.
Get in the tub, throw a mattress over you. That's your best bet.
And that was the soundbite.
The latest thing is weather.
Said gun bathtub and pull mattress over your head. I think that's a pretty good idea. It's not a bad idea.
I have stood on the side of the road waiting for the first snowflake to fall.
Underpass, that's the worst thing because the tornado just will suck you right out of there and you'll die. So anyway, that's some new information. I don't know.
Sometimes the people on the inside become so close on the inside that they forget that there's a world outside of that newsroom.
Oh yeah, that's an old one. I think they don't.
People still believe that.
That video, somebody was under the underpass with a camera and they filmed the tornado coming over.
It won National Spot News Awards. Yeah. Okay, Rick, you said we have to go to this Mountain Island Lake thing. Is this a big deal?
People around Mountain Island Lake have been concerned about development there, and I think some developer came in with some plan for a bunch of homes right on the watershed, and when you're talking about the water supply gas.
I think their concern is that Mecklenburg County has done some things with the setbacks and keeping developers on this side of Mountain Island Lake from putting the runoff and also any ecological runoff from there. But the concern is this side of the lake may be protected, but have they protected it on their side of the lake where they have their intake valves for their water system? So you cannot just depend on Mecklenburg to have done what it was supposed to do. Those other townships and counties depend on that water too. So it's a total lake protection.
It's Mecklenburg County's primary.
When I talked to the guy this morning, I mean, they spent millions on this land through donation and these different organizations. So I don't know how much land it is, but it should be considered.
Okay.
A fairly big deal.
If Kurt does the arena private partners deal, B, let's have you go to Mountain Island Lake. I like the small town 4th of July story. I just think you need to be, that's either a second, third, or 4th of July story.
It's a business, I understand that. God bless America. Wouldn't be nowhere else. But it's not a license to make money. It's a public license to broadcast.
Let's go to work.
The public has a stake in this.
I hope everybody's had a chance to see the newspaper today. If you haven't, I'm sure you've either read it or heard about it. and I want to spend a few minutes talking about what was in the article, at least one of them. I believe, seeing as how I really regard this as a family, that's the thing to do. So I'm going to say a few things and then ask people if they have any questions or comments. I'm not going to talk about individual personnel matters, and I think that reason is obvious why that's not going to be the case. Okay, the article referenced a group of people who question our news coverage of the minority community. They question our hiring practices, and they also made reference to the fact that those two issues have some kind of trending to them, specifically referencing our station in Norfolk, where I was last.
Is it a specific organization?
A group of concerned citizens?
It's referred to as an ad hoc group. It's not a sanctioned organization, as far as we can tell.
Let me go on by saying, first of all, this company has a very, very strong principle in inclusiveness and diversity. That's been a long-standing operating principle. As a matter of fact, we have a newly started, even though it's been going on for a while, minority business development program. And that's simply to make sure that we're doing what we can do to advance the cause of developing minority businesses in the community by doing more business with them. Helping people to help themselves is a better way, and so we have a goal and objective as to how much business by percentage we need to be doing with the minority business community. We also employ actually a company. They specialize in helping recruit and find minority hires. And every single position that we have gets sent to those folks, and we get recommendations from them, sometimes not as often as we'd like, but in any event, there's a commitment there on the part of the company. That's just not Charlotte. Company-wide, in dealing with this company and helping fill positions, especially key positions, with minorities. So I wanted to just get that out on the table. I would also encourage you, at this point in time, if you have any questions or any comments, that we're all here together, and this is the time to ask them. Anything anybody would like to ask about this? Okay? Thank you very much.
Well, stand up. You can walk. Come on, boy, you can stand. There you go. Yay! See that? Even he can drink the water.
Let me see if I can get some shots of it.
Okay.
What else do you need? You need that island over there, that thing?
Yeah, see how these people got campsites sitting right there and stuff? And the land that he would be developing is right around there. She gave me the name, one lady, you know, the house you can see right at that point when we're on the bridge. Maybe try to get to her. I got directions on how to get over there.
I think we're about to start here.
I wonder if it's a nest over here somewhere.
It made me feel good today to get letters from people. I've had calls from reporters from other stations and producers and people saying, hang in there.
I kept up with you since you were at Channel 3. So
I appreciate
kind of my own personal. So good luck to you. I know you got a lot going on right now, so good luck to you.
Thanks, Chicky. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Had something like this happened to me when I was younger, I would have done like younger reporters who say, well, I don't have to deal with this. I'll just go to another market.
I'm a concerned citizen, I guess.
Oh, okay. Just the guy I want to talk to.
I saw your picture in the paper this morning.
I'm Beatrice Thompson.
Nice to meet you in person.
It's nice to meet you.
We're moving, development is coming so fast with...
It's more than just going to another market. I care about where I am. It's not a stop on the resume. This is my home.
Trust for Public Land reached an agreement with the Provident Development Corporation for the purchase of 429 acres of land, and thereby ensure that this will remain as open green space to protect the water supply and the water quality of this fantastic resource for the community.
It does concern me the caliber of reporter that we're seeing coming in the local television markets.
we've reached an agreement which allows our company a reasonable return on our investment while offering the community a chance to permanently preserve this waterfront property.
My concern is that young reporters are thinking about the next career move, not the news of a particular community. I'm Beatrice Thompson with NBC6, Mr. Waters. Question I had, in your development, are we talking just selling land that's immediately on the shoreline, or are we talking different pockets and then the development still has access to the shoreline?
We're basically talking about selling the entire single-family development that I have proposed to do in its entirety. There would be no opportunities for access to the water because the property which we were going to do for the 400 single-family home sites would be sold under this option. All 429 acres, we're going to buy the whole thing.
Why you decide to sell it to them? I mean, you could have made more money selling homes.
That's an excellent question, and it was a very hard decision, and it's something that I have been wrestling with. Basically, it was an opportunity for a short-term return on an investment that I have, and then an opportunity to also show some preservation of the water that is very critical.
If you're able to pull this out, how much of Mountain Island Lake will then be protected? Does anybody have a good idea?
Well, yes, ma'am. I could probably help you with that. This map...
Go ahead, Hector. I need that shot.
This is what happens in the football games. Hold that pass. This is a map showing...
I truly feel reporters should have to take something similar to the Hippocratic Oath, that in bringing truth, I will do no harm, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. So we're talking more public access to Lakeland. Will there be access areas put in there for the public?
Yes, ma'am. Then we'll provide additional access to the community, the public, to the waterfront.
If they don't come up with the money, what you going to do?
We'll go right on with the development and do it in a quality way, environmentally sensitive, just as planned. Thank you all very much for coming.
Ready? Ready. People in Mecklenburg County have heard about this for a couple of years now, protecting around Mountain Island Lake to make sure that not so much development and runoff would mean that the water would be affected. Now, Gastonia has through about the end of July to come up with that $9 million, or Provident Development could still do its development. But for right now, at least there's some time. Now, if they come up with the money, they may actually be able to buy the land by the end of July. Sure. Thank you.
Good job.
All that sweating for that. You know, all that sweating for that. Thank you very much.
I'm a member of Leadership from Charlotte 15, and you came to a couple of our deals, so...
Yeah.
You were in earlier class, weren't you? Leadership Charlotte? So.
Class 10.
Yeah, I'm class 15.
Class 15. Well, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Sure. Anytime, just give me a holler.
Thank you.
And thank you
y'all.
for your help. I don't know that I necessarily fit in with what consultants are telling them that the public wants.
See that? You never know how deep people go. I was in Leadership Charlotte Class 10. He's in Leadership Charlotte Class 15. It's that Southern networking thing, just using the corporate way of doing it.
The public has told me what they like about me. It is my pleasure to do it on my terms.
She's so homespun, you just have to love her, you know? She'll say anything in her live shots. One day she's out covering the snow and she says, now this little chocolate snow bunny's gonna have to go in because it's getting pretty cold out here. Keith was appalled, his ears went, what does she say? He called her in when she got back, did I hear you correctly? Now of course people at home were tickled pink because it was just such a cute little, this chocolate snow bunny's gonna go in before I freeze to death or whatever she said. We died laughing. Now, I would never venture to do that because it doesn't fit my personality. I'm pretty straight-laced. But if you can pull it off, don't you think? People at home know they're real quick.
Hey, how you doing? Would you give a call to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department? I have a call that indicates that there may very well be some people who would choose to want to picket the station this morning. That may be a rumor, but I don't care if they picket. All I really am concerned about is the security issue with regard to the door. So I'd like an officer here.
The black community has been well organized politically, but I don't think African Americans have a big voice in the way city runs. The money, as in most places I've ever worked and lived, has the biggest voice. If you've got money, you have a voice. And African Americans are not among the wealthiest people in the city. Business tends to predominate in the economic decisions of Charlotte.
Thanks. Bye.
So do we know of somebody coming, or is this a...
It's a rumor, but you never know with regard to rumors. So let's just make sure that if they want to pick it, then that's their right to pick it. Norfolk Dennison, right?
You saw, yes, the guy from Monroe, Louisiana. We fast forward past him to...
That's what keeps us going. We began this morning with an unfortunate...
The one in Tampa had a wonderful voice.
I was astounded, particularly as someone who was paid to keep up with news, to think that in the nearly 25 years I've been back here, that I didn't know that we had failed as greatly as we had to equalize resources in the schools, because that's what the whole issue was about to begin with. And of course, overarching all of this is race relations.
Hey, Mr. Puckett, you got anything to say? Okay. Got a question?
Your reaction now that the trial is over?
I'm ready for the courts to rule. I hope they find us unitary. Personally, I'm ready to get around to taking care of education and not worrying about social engineering.
Charlotte's about a third black. Every black person I know feels less sanguine about racial harmony than white people.
Within 2 to 3 months, the school system will be unitary, and these notions that race has to dominate in the schools will be just a part of the history of Swan.
So you had some very harsh words in the courtroom there with respect to the school district's case. You said they've been hiding behind a court order. Would you elaborate on that?
The court order has become a crutch that like all crutches, people get used to them and it's hard to put them away.
The judge said you don't get damages, but you still says there's been some harm to your clients here.
It is a public privilege to go to a school for free. Taxpayers pay for that. And when you dole out public privileges and you pick and choose among those who get that benefit, Davidson IB, Cochran, wherever it is, based upon race, you're harmed. Every school system is supposed to be unitary. That's the natural order of things. And what's happened in Charlotte is they've forgotten that. The natural order of things here has become court supervision, and it's just the opposite. It's taken 30 years for it to change, but now it'll change. And we'll go back to the norm, and that's what people have to remember. It is the extraordinary when people are assigned based on their race. It is the norm when they're assigned based upon where they live.
Mr. Parks really took a hard line against the school board, saying that you guys have perpetuated a fraud on this community. What about that?
Go ahead.
No, if there's any fraud, listen to the case. Mr. Parks and the white interveners indicated that constitutional rights were violated, whereas the kids who are being bused long distances out of satellites are African-American children. I mean, if there's any fraud or misrepresentation, that would certainly be the case from my perspective.
How should this community feel about...
Sterling has a job to do, being a woman, being an African-American, being a reporter on a tough issue where race was involved primarily.
I've been working on this issue for 30 years.
I would imagine she would have some personal thoughts that she probably would not want to talk about on the screen.
You reporters that have covered this Mecklenburg County beat for years...
Because her job is how do I present both sides of the story fairly and as accurately as I could.
If there is a fraud, it's in the fact that we haven't done so yet.
Do you want the courts to back off and let you do what you have to do to achieve equity, or do you still want continued court supervision? Make that clear for me, please.
I think we're saying that we are not unitary yet and we should not be relieved.
She probably had a tough time. I understand that because it's like being the chair of the school board. When I've gone through a segregated school system, how do I walk down the middle when I have school board members who are voting to say, no, let's go back to neighborhood schools? So, you know, it's a different chore with respect to leadership or trying to get both sides out or respective of both parties' positions at the same time when you're responsible. I guess as a news reporter, you're responsible for getting the news out there at that particular moment. But at the same time, you want to get both sides out, and that's a tough one.
I think that with Keith, I would run the risk of getting in trouble had I been more divisive. Like, had I really said some of the things that were said in court, I think he would sit back and get angry with me personally. And then I'd have a harder battle. You know what I mean? I think I would have a harder way to go. So I felt like I had a responsibility to the community and a fine line to toe at work in covering that. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Because I didn't know that I didn't really feel that he really understood the issues at stake here, and I don't think that he really cared that much about the issues. And I don't mean that to slam anybody, I just mean that. And so when you realize that, you don't want to go too far out there and call it as you will. You know what I mean? You want to kind of keep it more, whatever, sanitized, if you will. But I tried to get out the main points of the story every day without making it too sanitized. I mean, you don't want to do that. You know? So, but yeah, I don't think if I had done something inflammatory, I think it would have been in jeopardy to me. I don't think that I would have been better off for having done that. I don't think he's that kind of person. I think he might have said, she supports the black parents, and that's why she did that report that way. You know what I mean? I have to be very careful to toe the line. Yeah.
Are there specific ones?
Yeah, chocolate singles, black voices, and I've got them earmarked because we got to...
Maybe that's part of the tag, but...
Keith said that...
Singles like chocolate singles.
I don't know how to write the people's stories.
We found these three... You know,
I need to be retrained...
These are three in the back.
...in how to write.
In other words, be more specific to Charlotte. You might check out Jazz Club.
That hurt me more than anything else.
Called the Excelsior. Like the Excelsior.
I spent my entire youth not disappointing people.
Who are they?
Kathleen and Pam. Trying to make sure everybody else was happy. Whatever I needed to do, that's what I would do, even if I was uncomfortable.
And then if you've got other specific places or things.
It took me a long time not to be a scared kid.
Yeah, check out.
For me to allow you that right gives you control. And I don't give nobody else control like that anymore.
This place, because I want to feel like you'd come away with a place to go.
I'm not really down about all this stuff. There could be the propensity to be down, but there's no need to be down.
We have a new development with the school thing. Lee Parks, the attorney for the parents, is filing a motion today to halt all equity initiatives until this case is decided. Now, you know that this budget has to do with equity and all kinds of things.
Yes.
The superintendent has called a 4:30 press conference to address it.
Great.
It's pretty significant to the extent that, I mean, equity was that big plan. And they want to halt all of that.
Okay.
Pending the outcome of this
At the
case.
Board of Education.
4:30. Now, how do we want to handle this?
Oh, Lord. Well, it sounds like this is your main deal now. Bill, you need to listen to this. She's got to get moving.
Attorneys have filed a motion today to halt all equity initiatives pending the outcome of this court case. I just finished talking to Arthur Griffin, who said we're not going to forfeit equity at any cost. Of course, the equity plan is that big grand plan they had to bring schools up to par and to give everybody resources and all that.
It's the parents who are suing the district in the big lawsuit.
Right. He wants all equity. No equity.
He wants an injunction against the entire equity plan.
Exactly.
This is your new lead story for 6.
That makes perfect sense.
What do we need to take with us file-wise?
Because we got to get it on ASAP. If it's developing at 4:30, we got to get it on at 5.
With this particular action, the plaintiff interveners have really come from under their rocks. This is more than just about unitary status of pupil assignment. This is about denying youngsters an opportunity to a quality education in Mecklenburg County. Those families, from the very beginning, wanted separate and unequal schools. They want African American children to come back, to leave their neighborhood schools, come back to facilities that we all agree are inferior, and prevent this Board of Education from providing an equitable learning environment. That is overt institutional racism. And no one at this particular point, once you look at this letter, can say anything otherwise.
It's a sad day when people are sitting up talking about kids like they're pawns. Some days I sit there and I'm about on the brink of tears thinking, what about the children? This really is about children. You can't help but wonder, from my own upbringing in the South here, what I may or may not have received simply because of racial politics. Now that's a real sad commentary.
I thought she said somebody had already filed something saying that we don't want.
She said that the understanding up until now was that they were going to ask for an end to race-based policies, but this equity plan, it's a $1 billion plan to change Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, and they're saying we want to put a hold on this until there's a ruling in the lawsuit, which is going to be late enough in the summer that this thing will not be able to be implemented.
And I think what you did is good. We need to spell it out that clearly, because everybody's not as in the loop on this as we are.
Do you know enough that you can write a VO at 5:30 just to tell people?
Yeah, and maybe that's where we start. Maybe work off of that.
Stand by, everybody. Here we go.
Hey, Sterling, can you hear me?
Yes. No VO. A VOSOT. I mean a SOT only. My God, I'm trying to think.
The parents who just sued the district over the second.
I wish you weren't so divisive. I wish that we could take it to a different level. I wish that they could take it to a level of fairness, not making it racial. All I want is what's right, just, and fair. Correct? And I mean, that's really what this should be about with these children. And therefore, race would be less significant if you looked at what's right and what's fair.
When I was a little kid, I used to wonder all the time, what did we do? You know, I wanted to ask my mom and dad, what did you wear when you went out? You know, did we drive cars? Because everything, the few things that I learned about black people in school weren't so hot. It was like, you were slaves, and then we freed you, and that's it. And I kind of figured we had a lot more going on than that.
She's my daughter.
I didn't realize that. Hi, I'm Betty Seisinger. Nice to meet you.
Same here.
You have a wonderful daughter.
Well, thank you. And this is her father.
Hi. Wonderful father, too.
If you look at the species,
Helena Thompson.
Only the strongest survive. If my people went through some traumatic times and still survived, there's something in there that you need to pay some attention to.
Are we seating in any particular order?
We're just going to sit round table, basically.
Okay. Lamont, I'm Keith Connors.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
In the South, one of the first questions you get is, who are you people?
Good to see you.
Where from?
Hello. Nice to see you again.
If you go far enough, you kin to somebody.
Hello.
I don't think they understood small town roots and feelings.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Rick Kilty. All right.
Sit anywhere?
Yeah.
Keith Connors from NBC6.
Oh,
It's nice to meet you. Where are you from originally?
I'm a native Charlatan.
Are you really?
Yeah.
That's terrific. Seems like we meet less and less of those in our travels.
Everybody is from someplace else, and they tell us, and yet strange thing, the transients tell us what to do, and we just sit back and say, okay.
It's late. I'm sorry.
A chance to learn the different cultures.
We had 3 issues that were brought up before us. One of those topics which had to do with employment issues in Norfolk, the community, the group doesn't care to hear about, and we'll respect your wishes. So I'll first address the discrimination issue. AHB owns the company now and began operating the television station in February 1997. Since that time, there has been one discrimination suit filed against the station, which was dismissed by the EEOC. With regard to the news coverage, we did go back and do some research with our people, and so I'll turn it over to Keith.
We went back, we did a great deal of research, went through the archives, spoke with all the people working on and around those days. You're right, we did not cover those events. I can find in our files no evidence of information about those events, and that's not to say that we weren't alerted to those events, because I'm sure we were. Our newsroom receives dozens and dozens of requests for coverage every day, hundreds every week, and I'm sorry to say we are far from perfect, and there are stories that fall through the cracks. That does not make it right, that does not make it justifiable, but I don't have an excuse for you other than to say that it happened under my watch, and I will be more attentive to it, and if you have issues in the future, please do call me. We did a lot of digging through the files, and I found that on average, in any given week, we did 2 positive stories in the African American community and 1 issue-oriented story in the African American community. Is that enough? No. Am I happy with that coverage? No. We know we have a ways to go, but we're committed to getting there. And I appreciate this opportunity to get this dialogue going so we can start talking about it. Coverage is important and relevant to friends, and I thank you for that.
How many folks do you have directly under you?
I have 6.
You have 6 direct reports to you. Of those 6, how many are African American?
There are none.
Okay, so that's the team that I think it's important to have some diversity, because if I'm in your shoes, I look to these 6 people. I mean, the buck stops with them. It's their problem what happens below them. It's your problem with what they do. And they're the ones that have to answer to you. And I think that's where it's so key. If you're really going to make a difference from a business perspective to diversity, that's where you got to have diversity.
And you're absolutely right, so we're on the same wavelength and same page on that. That is a focus and dedication, and that's of what I speak. And it's an evolutionary process. Without question, you've got to get there, but you'll never get there unless you're focused on it, and we are focused on it. And as I said, all I ask is that come back and hold us to that, and come back and let's have another conversation 6 months from now, a year from now, and say, where are you on that process at that point in time? Just like any company.
We're going to wait a year.
You talked about news. Who sits around that table during the day or early that morning to decide what news is going to be covered today?
I'll defer to Keith.
Sure.
How many African Americans sit in that meeting?
How many? It varies day by day. It varies depending upon who's in, who's out.
Today, who covered, today. Who made the decision today, and how many African Americans were there today,
how many African Americans? Well, in the morning, let's see, sitting in the meeting, probably 2 of the 6 people in the meeting. But the meeting is sort of in flux. There are people that, for example, we have a Rock Hill Bureau. They're calling in on the phone. We have a reporter who often covers the crime beat in courts, so he'll call in from outside. There are people that are working on different projects.
Why don't you describe how we get to news?
Well, let's say you send a press release out and you're having an event today at 10 o'clock in the morning. We do some pre-planning the day before. But then that morning at 9 o'clock, we sit down. In that meeting are all the anchors, are all the reporters, unless the reporters are out on assignment, and all the news producers, and all the news managers. So you have that group of people. In the newsroom, that's why I say it varies. It depends. Some people come and go. I can tell you we are 75%.
Decision makers. I'm interested in how many African Americans on a regular basis help make decisions on what news is covered in our community. I hear what you're saying, people sit in different capacities, but I don't know if my question is clear or not. How many of us, or how many people of diversity get to help determine what is covered today? I mean, 15 can sit around the table, but if only 4 are making the decisions, and I want to know how many of those 4 are African American or minority diversity based.
Let me see if this will make it a little bit clearer for you. Let's see, in our newsroom, we are 75% white, we are 19.4% African American, 4% Hispanic, and 1.5% Asian. We have approximately 13 reporters. The African Americans among that group, let's see if I can get them. Sterling Benson Weber, Glenn Counts, Tracy Flanagan, let's see. Tracy, Sterling. Did I answer your question, or would you like me to walk you through the
Let me
process?
just speak from the heart here. And I think what has happened here with the B. Thompson situation is that you have created a very ugly situation in this community, in terms of the black community. Very ugly and very painful. In essence, you have put a dagger, a gap in our heart. That's very painful because of who she is and what she represents in this community. I also perceive we don't take that very lightly, but here is a golden opportunity for reconciliation. I don't know who you have working with Sue in public affairs, but B. Thompson knows this community like no one else knows this. And so here's a golden opportunity to get her involved in the public affairs and to really make this station a more relevant station to the black community and to close both of these gaps, the gap in our heart and the gap in your coverage. I hope you do that, because I don't know how the rest of these folks feel. I'm tired of fighting this battle, but I'm not too tired to continue as long as is necessary until victory is won.
We're going to recognize Gloria.
I've been sitting and listening, and I'm going to speak directly from the heart and the mind. Sir, you have did the wrongest thing that you ever did when you treated and let Beatrice Thompson went. Beatrice Thompson knows this community. She knows the people. She could help your business, your coverage, better than anything in the world. So ain't no need of nobody going all the way around the bush. I'm not coming to be asking you nothing about whatever you doing at your station. I'm here this afternoon to tell you what's on my heart and mind, and in the black community. Your station and you, individual, have did one of the worst things that you ever did. When you fired Beatrice Thompson, you didn't treat her right, and it's bugging me, and it's bugging the community. So I'm going to hush, because it's coming on, and I could sit here and tell you something, and I know what I'm talking about. And you did wrong, and I'm here to tell you to your face that you did wrong.
Beautiful.
Change is due. That's what we've got to do if we're going to move the television station forward. You know, I'm one of those, those great American dreamers who believes that the truth always wins out in the end, Getting to the truth that is hard, but I know who I am, I know who this company is, I know what we're about, and that gives me comfort, because I know that what they're saying is not true. Is that today's list? Or are we waiting for today's list?
They've let me know how they feel about me. Friday is my last day.
And everybody? Where is everybody?
Stuck in traffic.
You don't have the right to that much of my soul.
Mike Brody said he was stuck.
You don't have the right to that much of my spirit.
Me?
Just thinking about today. When we started this meeting, I think at least 3 or 4 people weren't here because of traffic concerns. Now, if we look at the number of local road projects happening right now, how much additional time are we seeing people having added to their drive? Charlotte has grown by, 85,000 people since 1990. And what used to be a 2-lane road with a bucolic setting, a barn, and a bunch of jumping horses right below my house is now a 4-lane road. The horses gave up and the barn's falling in. And all that's happened in the last 8 years. So I see us growing.
We're already seeing the typical interchange backup, retail development. Things are too congested. We're building a 65-mile outer belt, which is 15 years from completion.
Still think we ought to do something about those small towns and whether or not they're going to have
traffic and race relations. That's the biggest thing The educational system certainly is in there, but it is, in terms of the growth of the community, I think we're going to fix education probably before we fix traffic or racial harmony.
This is the management team that's going to take this news department places.
Look how many people have left, been fired, quit, got burned out. It's a brutal business, especially in your number 3.
Am I not doing my job effectively? I hope I'm responsible enough that people would trust me with the big story.
People have this impression of what we do, and it's nowhere near what we do.
Hear a lively discussion on today's issues from a variety of women's perspectives on To the Contrary. Next, stay curious. WQED.
Step into the newsroom with PBS Online. Check out the local news companion website on pbs.org. To order a cassette of local news for $29.95 or of the 5-part series for $119.95 plus shipping, call 1-800-336-1917.